DFS show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Farm NBA DFS play-by-preview show. We are looking at the 7-game main slate for tonight. And James, you did the playbook for today. I don't envy you. Today was the day. A lot of questionable players, a lot of big names being ruled out throughout the day. I guess at least we got the news. It'd be way worse if we didn't get the news already, but this slate was flipped upside down on its head a few different times this evening here, and there's still 2 hours till first tip.
Happy Tuesday. No, it's been a good week so far for the Fantasy Alarm family for NBA. I got a pretty good idea of what's going on. It's just like when stuff like this happens, right? Donovan Mitchell ruled out front end of a back-to-back. SGA ruled out. Jalen Williams ruled out. Like, your plans change, and that's not always a good thing because, like, you and I built a lineup yesterday that we liked.
Yep.
That lineup
doesn't matter.
Doesn't necessarily matter, just considering the magnitude of what took place, right? Like 2 of 3 of a team's best players are not playing, right? Another team's best player is not playing.
Okay.
The floodgates opened for both of those situations, especially like they're pretty good spots. Like Philly's a bottom 10 defense. That's the spot OKC has. And then Cleveland's facing Utah. Right. And we know how bad Utah is. So defensively and all that. So like a lot has changed throughout the day. I'm sure that is not the last of it. We're still waiting on Denver news with Jamal Murray that we're not going to get before lock. Right. We're still waiting on the Lakers news, which fortunately we will get before lock. But like if one of them's ruled out, right? Lakers, John. Front end of a back-to-back. They're one of like 6 teams on the front end of a back-to-back today. Like that could again shift the pendulum. So there's a lot to get into. There's a lot that's happened. There's a lot going on. No time to waste.
No time to waste at all. Like you mentioned, we'll jump into the same. We appreciate you all tuning in here. Coach Chris in there saying, yo, what's up, Coach Chris? Happy to have you in there with us here today. A lot of red, a lot of orange here at the point guard position. Looking at the matchups, Lakers, Toronto getting 12, 234.5. Milwaukee, Washington, Wizards getting 13, 226. Knicks versus the Heat giving 3, 206. Thunder, Philly now getting 1.5, 219.5 total there. Rockets, Timberwolves giving 7.5, 215. Spurs, Nuggets giving 16, 223. Cleveland, Utah getting 10, 216 total there in that one. We don't have the 10 p.m. games in the slate. No Clippers, Kings. There was no Kawhi Leonard in that Clippers game. And Dallas, Golden State also not on the main slate here. James, just getting into the point guard position. Again, no SGA, no Donovan Mitchell now, no Damian Lillard. So 3 of the top 5 prize guys are off today's slate at the point guard position. We have Brunson playing a bunch of minutes. We have Jalen Green coming off of a down game. Mid-tier guys like Maxey and Quickly and Murray, questionable. Quickly more probable to play here today. Like, how are you approaching point guard now, knowing the information that we have at hand?
So Brunson is not in a great spot. We've talked about it a lot, how Miami's defense struggled earlier in the year. That is not the case anymore. Since the All-Star break, they're the number 2 rated defense in the NBA. Both the top 2 defenses are in the same state. So, take a stab at who's number 1. But Miami's number 2, and we know that they play slow. We know the Knicks play slower than anybody. So if you want to get there, we know he has a ceiling. And you can say the same thing about Jalen Green. Minnesota has been slightly worse defensively, but he will still see a heavy dose of Jaden McDaniels. And when he's not being guarded by Jaden McDaniels, he'll be guarded by Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and neither of those matchups are fun for anybody, right? And when Jalen Green drives to the basket, guess what? There's a tall French man that spread COVID around the world waiting for him at the rim. So they're both fine in tournaments, not priorities. I'm basically I'm okay getting to Maxey. I'm not totally certain what quickly he's going to play. I know it was a conditioning thing. There was a passing in his family as well as RJ Barrett. So like they're both coming back. We don't know what the shape of either of those players are. Like, good to see them back. Just not really interested there. It's a good spot for quickly, but 8,500. We don't know what the minutes are going to be. If there's no minutes limit, then maybe. But also Toronto's lost 15 games in a row. Like, what are they actually playing for? They have a top 6 protected pick in this upcoming draft.
Right.
Continue to lose. They're going to continue to lose, right? Like, more they play quickly, more they play Barrett, the better they have to win. So, honestly, the next name I get to is Darius Garland. Like, that's probably the first name I'd get to. He has some monster numbers. Sans Mitchell, Sans Isaac Okoro too. I mean, the Okoro absence is kind of a big deal too. So is Craig Porter, because now you have like Levert basically acting as both backup guard.
Yeah.
Garland's in for big minutes. I know we have been sneak bit by Darius Garland in the past, but he has a better fantasy point per minute average than the likes of Karis LeVert. The only thing Karis LeVert really has on him is slightly better eligibility.
Yeah.
I still lean the Darius Garland route. Sans Mitchell, I love 7,100 for Garland tonight. So that'd be pretty much where I'm starting my exposure at point guard, $7,100. That's kind of where we are with injuries today.
Yeah, and I think you'll jam him in at point guard and then probably Giddey in at shooting guard tonight.
Yes.
No SGA, no Jalen Williams. We'll have the updated rostership. Obviously, just came in. Okay.
Yeah, I have it up on site already.
Okay, cool. So we'll get that updated. Is that post SGA news though? I still see him.
Oh yeah, he does.
So when we get the SGA update, which will probably be coming shortly here, I would imagine Giddey probably ranks up the rostership here, because right now Gordon Hayward is actually getting like a ton of love. Probably still gets a lot of love, but yes. I mean, hard to argue with the way Giddey's been playing. Coming off 60 fantasy point triple double against the Knicks, and now no Williams, no SGA tonight. Locking in Garland, locking in Giddey makes a ton of sense here. Is there a reason to pay down anymore, though? Is there other point guards on this slate that you're looking at? I know we mentioned if Maxey's out, campaign at $4,200, and the other side of that Thunder matchup was someone that we were looking at playing today.
Dude, there is a ton of like what ifs at point guard, because so Patrick Beverley is someone I would probably get to. I'm not like, I don't like the $4,500 price tag. Like, I like $3,600, but also there's no denying 36 minutes is great, and the production was great at whatever price he's at, right? Like 36 fantasy points. Like, if that was repeatable, then I'd be perfectly fine with it. I don't know if it is, but it is Washington, so I'm okay with Beverley. Like, we've 2 comments in a row on Mike Conley, and I mentioned to you in the pre-show this, like, I liked Mike Conley. I like what Mike Conley's provided. I think he realizes they need the scoring punch, especially when, like, if Naz Reid is off the floor, I don't know who the second option is for Minnesota to score the basketball. So it's been Conley. He's been making a lot of threes lately. He's been very, very efficient scoring in general. So I'm okay getting to Conley. Yeah. But then, like, Reggie Jackson's a what if, because what if no Jamal Murray? Like, Reggie Jackson has a lot of appeal. What if with Lowry and Campaign, as you mentioned, like both those guys, Tyrese Maxey went through shoot around this morning, so trending towards playing. But if you remember, we've actually seen this with Tyrese Maxey before. He's gone through shoot around. We've seen this with a couple people in the last few months, gone through shoot around and not played, right? So I like both guys if they don't play. I think there's a case to be made for Jared Butler tonight. Washington Wizard, he's questionable, $3,800. Each of the last 2 games Kyle Kuzma has missed. 331, so the last game they've played against Miami, he had 26 fantasy points in 23 minutes. And then on 325 against Chicago, he had 38 and a half fantasy points. He had 13 assists. He has been a direct beneficiary of Kyle Kuzma being off the floor, because you can play Jordan Poole off the ball in those instances. So Jared Butler would be another guy that I would take a look at $3,800. I do have to mention it, and I don't want to just gloss over Casey Wallace. I understand Casey Wallace has let us down in the past. It's a little different when you take the top two players off a team, right?
Yeah.
This year, in the biggest sample size on the team, Casey Wallace, again, he has the biggest sample size without Williams, without SGA. 8% usage bump, or 7.9, second on the team, only to Gordon Hayward. 0.94 fantasy points per minute. Like 0.94 fantasy points per minute is a significant bump to what it's been all year for any other instance. So $3,900 point guard, shooting guard. We essentially know he's going to start, right? I before SGA was ruled out, I assumed we were going to get Gordon Hayward in the starting lineup.
Right.
That was what they did the last time we saw Jalen Williams out. That was the 29-minute game we saw Gordon Hayward play against the Pacers. But now there's no SGA. Every other situation they've ever had has been Casey Wallace starting, right? So I assume it's the same three: Dort, Giddey, Chet, plus Casey Wallace, plus Gordon Hayward. That's your starting five tonight. And then you get Joe and Aaron Wiggins probably as your first two off the bench. So I'm good getting to Casey Wallace tonight. I think he's very playable, and there's a lot to like about the Thunder, just considering the matchup. There's a lot to, max 4, max 5, depending on how comfortable you are. Because
we did 5 Spurs on the pre-show, so
yes, and it helps you spend up 2 stars, because we're gonna get to the front court where there's not a shortage of spend ups, right? Wemby shorthanded team, no Dame, which means puts Giannis in the forefront. What if AD's playing without LeBron? What if LeBron's playing without AD? What if Jokic is playing without Murray? So I love the spend downs here at point guard. If there's guys out, but I do like Casey Wallace. I do have a mild interest in Jared Butler as well.
Okay. Guys, we appreciate you all tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you haven't already tossed a like on today's show, it's a free way to support us here. Just hit that thumbs up button. It really does a lot for us with the YouTube algorithm. We appreciate y'all popping in. Mention Clem, asking about Conley. Sasha asking about some Yahoo DFS. A lot of the advice we're giving here for DraftKings, Sasha, plays up for Yahoo as well. I know they generally use sort of FanDuel scoring, so less bonuses, more emphasis on defense. But, a lot of what we're talking about here tonight certainly can be playable over on Yahoo as well. Nico going over to shooting guard, asking about Sexton here with no Clarkson tonight. Obviously now a little bit of an easier matchup, kind of, sort of, for Utah without the guys that are playing for Cleveland here. So what are your thoughts on Sexton this evening?
Dude, I agree. And I think specifically no Isaac Okoro, right? No Okoro, no Donnie Mitch. Who is Sexton? Obviously he's the primary option. So he's going to see Garland. There's going to be Strus, probably LeVert at times. But they're really shorthanded. Utah is no Sexton, or no Clarkson, no Markkanen, no Collins. 3 of their top players this year. So yeah, I do have some interest in Colin Sexton, just given that there's no Isaac Okoro to defend him, and that's been the best perimeter defender they have on their team.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Sexton aside, where are you looking at when it comes to the shooting guard position here?
I think we can get to Ant. I think Ant's been struggling a little bit with the shot, but we know what happens when he gets going. The price has dipped. I mean, it got up to $10K. We're now $600 light from that max price. And I've said it a bunch. Since the All-Star break, Houston's playing really fast. They're the 5th fastest team in the NBA. Minnesota's 21st. This is a pretty good pace-up spot for Anthony Edwards. They're still good defensively, Houston is, but Edwards has kind of lit them up in 2 games this year. So I'm okay getting to Ant. He's going to be essentially unowned like he is on every slate right now, especially with how much star power is on the slate. Jordan Poole in the mid-tier, no Kyle Kuzma. We know what Jordan Poole can be, $6,800, really good spot. He'll see the Patrick Beverley treatment, but that's not the same as it used to be. And Jordan Poole does not necessarily care. He's going
Right.
to take 20 shots without Kyle Kuzma. We saw it in the Chicago game that he was in foul trouble. We saw it in the Miami game. Those are the last 2 games Kuzma's been out. 20 shots in each. So Jordan Poole is going to take a whole bunch of shots tonight. I'm good getting to Karis LeVert, 6,700. He's exactly at a fantasy point per minute. Sans Okoro, Sans Mitchell. Likely slides into the starting lineup. We have to assume that's the case, that he gets back into the starting lineup.
Yeah, the one difference with Karis LeVert now versus before is that Mobley wasn't available back then.
Right.
Now, like, back in the mix for them, taking some of that usage away.
Right. It's true, but still at a pretty like good numbers overall. I will say, like, again, I think he's a secondary play to Darius Garland, because Garland's numbers are superior, but Giddey, we talked about, he's a lock and load play. Oubre would be Uber didn't hit.
I was gonna say,
Oubre,
I don't know where you're going.
Would be interesting. I'm just gonna move on and pretend like it didn't happen. Oubre would be interesting if there's no Maxey, but again, Maxey trending towards playing. Miles McBride's okay, tough spot, but anytime he makes shots, there's a ceiling because he plays all the minutes. Max Strus, we haven't seen Strus extended, but also they've, like 24 minutes game 1, 27 game 2. What would it have been in the third game if not a 29-point loss against Denver? Right. Like, probably plays 30 minutes. So I have to assume Strus gets up towards 30 minutes. Malik Beasley, 5,100 is a fine play. Nothing like I'm like really interested in, but it's fine if it's like a lineup filler. You could save $1,000 and play either Julian Champagny at 42 or Malachi Branham at 41. Both Spurs guys are in for big minutes. I saw we had a comment about Sam Merrill earlier. I do think Sam Merrill is going to play 24 minutes against Charlotte. That was the last game we saw without Donovan Mitchell. There's no Craig Porter. There's no Donovan Mitchell. There's no Isaac Okoro. Like, 3 guys that they could turn to after Garland LeVert, right?
Yeah.
They just don't exist. So just considering, I believe this is correct as well. There's a little revenge narrative. He's either from Utah or was drafted by Utah, or there's some connection for Sam Merrill to Utah.
I'll pull it up quickly, but that does seem vaguely familiar to me. I think it was Milwaukee. Yeah, drafted by Milwaukee.
Did he play college in Utah? Did he
Utah
play?
State college at Utah State? There it is.
Okay, so there was some connection for Sam Merrill in Utah. I wasn't sure what it was, but maybe that's or get Sam Merrill. We've seen it. We've seen it in recent. But also, regardless of any narrative, a narrative aside, like, there's just a depletion of guard depth on this team.
Yeah, and we talked about some other guards that are down here as well for some potential value plays. You mentioned Whitmore came back, Branham playing a lot of minutes here, Christian Braun potentially in play. Isaiah Joe we've talked about here. So there's definitely some plays for value shooting guards that we could be looking at this evening.
Yeah, the Isaiah Joe thing is interesting because he does, he has been a good usage increase guy without SGA. He hasn't been as good in a small sample with both SGA and Jalen off the floor, but we just saw it in Houston. Like, he got up to 33 minutes in sans SGA, 22 minutes in Phoenix. So it's not like they're afraid to go to him. And when he's making shots, I mean, he's really hard to stop. So I expect Isaiah Joe to be quite popular at $3,600. And I saw a comment.
Cam the Man asked about Wiggins here at 38 for forward. We'll get
there. Yeah, we'll get there. I do think Aaron Wiggins is an interesting pivot
for sure. And Sasha in here popping in, letting us know. We figured quickly and Barrett were going to be in, but officially ruled in there for Toronto. Where's our guy Toronto Dave? We need the Toronto news. Need the alarm with the.
We'll have a minutes limit too, which is expected. I mean, they haven't played. I'm sure. I don't know what. Yeah, they haven't played in a couple weeks. So.
Yeah, nowhere I'm going for lineups tonight, personally. Small forward, you mentioned we got to wait on the LA news, but obviously LeBron would be a pretty appealing play at under 10K at $9,800. He had buckets in a little bit of a tough spot at 8K. You and I are all in on Denny most nights. Him and Hart in the mid tier at 75 and 74. looking pretty good. Middleton's at 71. Like, this is a loaded small forward tier.
Yeah, look, LeBron, AD, and then I think it jumps to Denny. I don't really have a lot of interest in Jimmy in that game environment. Honestly, not so much in Josh Hart either. I know that's going to come to bite me because we tout Josh Hart every slate.
I was going to say, you're going to tell me a guy that's going to play 45 minutes and doesn't matter who he's up against. He's triple-doubling or double-doubling. You're like breaking your own rules.
I'm breaking my own rules. I'd rather just play Chris Middleton. I don't know. Maybe it's a matchup thing. Maybe it's not Dame.
That's fine. If you want to say like you're okay pivoting off to Middleton or Denny, but like Josh Hart, if you're making 20 lineups, has to be in your player pool.
Yeah. I mean, he's again 48-minute potential is always in the player pool. Chris Middleton. I mean, dude, if these are the minutes we're gonna get 39, 33, 36, then I'm vastly interested. No Damian Lillard in against the worst defense in the league. Definitely interested. And then it like jumps down. I think there's just like a lot of value. Another position that's just chock full of value. Bryce Sensabaugh, 4,300, is gonna play 30 plus minutes. Gonna start. I mean, he was another first round pick they had, right? They had 3 first round picks this year. He was one of the 3. We've seen a large sample of Keontae George. We're starting to see more Sensabaugh. We're starting to see more Hendricks. So Sensabaugh 43, Champagny 42. We talked about, but Spurs Champagny for all those watching at home, not Wizards Champagny.
Does Wizards Champagny get any minutes tonight with Kuzma?
Probably not enough to matter.
Okay.
Probably not enough to matter. Could, but he played 28 against Chicago and then hasn't played. He might even be in the G League. We'd have to look at the
check it out
report. Chetty Osman 3,900 is in play. We talked about Isaiah Joe. I do think there's a strong case to Aaron Wiggins. Dude, 25 and 26 minutes in the 2 games that SGA did not play. And now we're talking about no J-Dub, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, I think
he's the highest rostered player on the slate right now.
Yes, and I do think he starts.
He played 30 minutes in that one game without Jalen Williams.
I think they need him and his shot creation, right? Like, they're losing their 2 primary ball handlers in SGA and Jalen Williams. Like, those 2 dudes play on the ball more than anybody. So, like, I don't see a scenario where, like, Wiggins starts over, unless Wiggins is starting over Cason Wallace. I don't see him starting over Gordon. Like, I think it's Gordon's pretty much solidified for me. And I think he's a really solid play at 3,300.
Sure.
But, dude, it's hard to ignore the minutes from Aaron Wiggins. No SGA. Like, 25 and 26 minutes in those 2 games that SGA in the Houston and in the Phoenix games. 25 and 26 fantasy points. Now, didn't miss shots. Like, didn't miss any shots. But we've kind of talked about this year. Dude shooting 58% from the floor. Yeah. He's shooting 50% from 3. Like, this is not the Aaron Wiggins of the past. I'll tell you that. When Aaron Wiggins be like, oh, Aaron Wiggins is starting tonight. Well, it's like, does that matter? Like, are we playing Aaron Wiggins? Well, I'd play this dude.
Well, he was always a volume guy, right? He was just a low percentage volume guy. Now he's a low minutes efficient guy. So, if he's going to play the 25, like you said, and go 6 of 8 and 7 of 9, in the past, this used to be like 6 of 20, I'm fine going there. And then I mentioned, hey, we're getting a lot of the love, and we'll see what happens when the ownership re-updates itself without SGA involved, where sort of that all moves. It could even move harder into those plays here. Yep. Moving on to power forward, Giannis, AD, your top 2 price guys. LeBron's here. RJ Barrett, as we know, going to be limited. I talk about it all the time. I have no problems playing Giannis as a top overall play, especially on times when there's no Dame. This is a smash spot for him. I know you've been partial to Anthony Davis when LeBron James has been out of the lineups. Makes a lot of sense. 10-4. How are you talking about the top end at power forward today?
I mean, you can play them both, just given what we have on the slate, right? Like, sure. You can play them both. So I still prioritize Giannis. That is, the gap is shrunk if there's no I mean, we have to reconfigure everything if LeBron sits, right? Like we were reconfiguring our thoughts completely because now it's like, well, Toronto's lost 15 games in a row. Their best two players are on a limit, and they're not going to be able to stop anybody because we're going to want D'Lo, we're going to want Reeves, and you always talk about Rui Hachimura, who's been on a heater. So like Davis would probably be the best per dollar spend up of the slate if that's the case. Well, no, probably not before lock, or probably not before the end of the show, but we'll know. If LeBron plays, Giannis is my number one play at power forward. Probably number one spend up in general. Just given no Dame, the matchup against Washington, pace, everything that factors into what Giannis can do without Damian Lillard would be my top play. But obviously, we'll reconvene that thought if there's no LeBron James.
Our guy, Coach Chris's thoughts on Mobley. You know I love Mobley in these spots. No Mitchell. I wish there was no Allen, obviously, but no Mitchell plays a big role here. Definitely in on some Evan Mobley for me against Utah tonight.
Yeah, Jared Allen actually has slightly better numbers, but Mobley's better price. So it depends on what you can afford. Also, I think we should probably see full capacity minutes for Mobley here.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. He can be like one of their go-to offensive plays tonight.
We also know that he sometimes doesn't want to. So that's the only thing with Evan Mobley where like I do love that he's shooting threes, by the way. That's been a part of his game that he's needed to add basically.
Well, you remember earlier this season when they didn't have Mitchell, he was just being an absolute monster. So that lineup basically is going to exist tonight, and there's some opportunities for him to put up some big numbers here. So I'm with you, Coach Chris. I like Evan Mobley tonight. Mid-tier other power forwards for you? Anybody?
No.
Okay. Kispert, 56.
Yeah, he's fine. Okay. I don't know, like very, very scoring dependent. Other than that random 12 rebound game that he had, but
sure.
I would say pretty scoring dependent. I think it's another situation we're talking about, just like the value, right? It's like spend all the way up, spend all the way down. Yeah, he's fine.
Sean Holmes officially out tonight for the
Marvin Bagley season.
Marvin Bagley season.
Yeah, we'll get that. I mean, I think again, it's just kind of like the value tier for me. The Spurs guys we mentioned, Chetty Osman, Mamu is someone we haven't talked about. 3,600.
We played him last night. We plugged Mamu into the lineup last night that we built.
Dude, there's just no scenario when you look at what the Spurs are dealing with tonight that he's not. Now, I guess the one caveat is, would they go back to Wemby Collins? Well, instead of like Wemby Mamu, but like they didn't, and they went to Mamu in a competitive game, and he was great. Anytime he's extended, he's great. So I'm good with it. If that's where we're
for me, it's more so you don't have to go here anymore because Gordon Hayward is $3,300.
Sure, you don't. He is a center only on FanDuel. Okay. So that's where I think you'd probably make a decision. But
would you play him as a center only on FanDuel? Would you just play Bagley here?
I think Bagley's power forward eligible on FanDuel. So another caveat.
Okay. Power forward. What else are we looking at? Power forward. Anybody?
LeBron AD game time decisions. That helps. Jared Butler listed available to play for Washington. Anything else at power forward? Gordon's here. No, there's nothing else.
Okay. Going on over to the center position then here, where again we just had news without Holmes. Bagley's at $5,500 in the mid tier. A guy that we kind of liked anyways on this slate against Milwaukee. Does he become your number one per dollar center tonight?
Number one per dollar.
No Kuzma, no Holmes.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's funny. I'd prefer playing Bagley to Walker Kessler. Like Walker Kessler's getting all the he's getting all the ownership.
And I wouldn't argue with you here either. Going up against Allen and Mobley tonight, like that doesn't seem fun.
I'm not saying I don't think Kessler can have a fine game, but like until he develops more offensively, you're going to get more of the games you got against Sacramento, even when he's extended. Like 32 minutes, took 6 shots, 8 rebounds, 3 blocks. Like, if you're not going to shoot, you need to be like Rudy Gobert, where like Gobert's grabbing 15 rebounds, still like active enough offensively to be productive. So I prefer Bagley, I guess per dollar. Yeah, per dollar, I guess Bagley would be one. I mean, you could play Giannis here. So like by default, I kind of still lean Giannis. Jokic is elite. Wemby's elite in tournaments. I have quite a bit of interest in like the Allen, Gobert, Chet Holmgren tier that I don't think a lot of people are going to get to.
I mean, you mentioned Chet, right? Obviously, no Williams, no SGA. Now, we had this before, and he was the biggest disappointment ever.
Well, there was not both of them out. It was just one of them out.
But the big one was out. SGA wasn't playing.
He's at 1.5 fantasy points per minute without both.
Yeah.
It's a really small sample, but he's also like not shooting well at all. He's been like pretty bad. 37% over his last 5 games. That's kind of been like going back, like been pretty inconsistent for
a lineup with Giddey, Wallace, and Hayward. It could benefit Holmgren from the fact that, at least Hayward we know is a really good passer. We know Giddey is a good passer. Wallace is a guard. I imagine he can probably pass the ball pretty well. So, like, more guys to move the ball around here and get Holmgren some shots. And guys, I definitely appreciate your questions. We'll talk about those in a moment. I see you guys, CW in there, Clem, Sasha, and Race in here asking about some double stacks of spend up. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So just stick with us. If you haven't already tossed a like on today's show, hit the thumbs up. Free way to support us here. So Holmgren 1.5 fantasy points per minute without those guys on the show, on the floor. You had Gobert, as you mentioned, at $7,600. What is it about Gobert tonight that you're in on?
I mean, Houston just not a great rebounding front court, especially no Şengün. Jabari, we know how inconsistent Jabari is. And the minutes are incredibly solid for Rudy, 35, 38 the last 2 games. That's kind of been the case since Karl-Anthony Towns has gone out. Well over a fantasy point per minute without Karl-Anthony Towns. The offense has been pretty good for Gobert lately. 17 plus in 3 of his last 4 games. Again, not like priority center, especially with things changing and Marvin Bagley now available at 5,500 with basically front court to himself.
Sure.
But I'm definitely interested in a little Rudy Gobert at 76 if you want to be a little contrarian.
Sure, 100%. Again, the upside that he brings in the matchup is definitely appealing. Value centers, again, we went down to Bagley already. You mentioned Kessler, currently the highest rostered center at $4,700. But do you have any interest in anybody else that's down here?
I don't think anything that we haven't talked about, like any multi-position eligible players. I don't think there's always a case for if AD sits, like Jackson Hayes has been getting extended pretty much every 30 minutes the last start for AD, 27 fantasy points at 4,100. That's a solid value, but there's nothing else that really piques my interest.
I'll hit Sasha's question here. It's not a main slate question, but it is the late game Clippers, Kings, no live or not Clippers.
Dallas Warriors.
Yeah, Dallas Warriors. Sorry. No Lively tonight. We like Gafford anyway. So no Lively. I'm sure you can run Gafford out there against the Warriors tonight and have no problems going there if you wanted to. CW wanted to know Kenrich and Champagny or Hayward and Osman. If you're looking for some double spends, I think we're going second group here, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kenrich is going to be in the rotation, but I don't think there's
Hayward's going to start. So why mess around with who Hayward's backup probably is on this slate, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just much higher ceiling for.
I mean, Champagny's going to start. He'll start over Osman, but I feel like I trust Hayward more than.
They started both last. They started Chetty, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, give me Hayward and Osman, though. Clem wants to know, would you do Giannis and AD in the same lineup?
Sure would.
You would? and then Giannis and Joker in the same lineup for race.
Sure would. I mean, dude, that's the lineup we built last night. It was like comfortable. It took us 13 seconds to build the Giannis. Now that shouldn't happen.
All the Spurs. Now we're basically hot swapping Spurs for Thunder, and like we're good to go.
That shouldn't you shouldn't be able to easily put Jokic, Giannis in a lineup, but like
we're actually going to have more money available swapping to the Thunder than we did because Wiggins and Hayward are cheaper than Branham and Champagnie and those guys.
And Joe is 34, and
so we're going to have more money available to build that lineup than we did beforehand.
Well, the question is, do we want to?
Of course, why not?
Because now Garland, Giddey,
so you can still fit those guys. Then again,
okay.
We'll play with it. Before we get to today's lineup build, though, I want to give a quick mention here because it is the last day to take advantage of our Let's Win promo. You get 20% off your first month of our All Pro Fantasy subscription. That gets you access to all premium content on site. If it's behind the paywall, you get access to it as a member of the All Pro family here. FantasyStorm.com/win or scan the QR code. It saves you 20% off your first month. If you want to go annually with us, that means that the NFL DFS season will be included. It is 40% off the month-to-month cost here. So join for a year, save 40% off your monthly cost there, and get access to all of our premium content, NASCAR, MMA, PGA, NBA, MLB. We have big days in the MLB to start off the year. You go check out our premium Discord, which is also included in the All-Pro package. So again, fantasystorm.com/win, the promo code Let's Win, 20% off your first month there. Grande, let's get to the lineup building portion of the show. Are we committed to these Thunder cheapies here, Hayward and crew? Where do you want to start things off?
Giannis, Hayward, Giddey,
Joe?
It's either Joe or Wiggins. I don't care which. Both are, I think, very solid plays.
I'm good with Joe. We've seen what he can be. All right, we got 6,200.
Bagley,
okay. Bagley works. 65.
Garland. And then maybe we do a fourth Thunder. Maybe we do play Aaron Wiggins. And then $8,900 gets us nothing. It's like not a.
We could go to like Denny. Let's see.
Go up from.
We could still go Mamu if you believe in him. I think it was just 10-8. 10-8 gets us Anthony Davis and Wembanyama.
Yeah, I would not be opposed to having either of those gentlemen.
Let's see. If we did 80 at center, there's our AD lineup. We have 4K. What's lowest case in Walls? Is he more expensive?
He's 39.
Chetty, there you go. Yep. Chetty over Mamu makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Giddey, Joe, Hayward, Giannis, AD, Garland, Wiggins, and Osman, just as an example lineup for all of you guys there. Double spending can do with all these Thunder, and if you don't like the Thunder, you can swap to the Spurs value. Branham, Champagnie, Osman, Mamu, all right there for you as well. So, guys, take a look at it. Let us know what you think. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We do a live MLB DFS show every day at 4 p.m. Eastern, and then right into our live NBA DFS show at 5 p.m. Eastern. We do pre-shows each and every day. No reason not to tune into the Fantasy Lab channel during the day here. We got all you guys covered for all your fantasy needs. Grande's got the playbook. That'll be updated. Ross should be happening as well. Follow us on Twitter at JMPemba777 at @thereal_Grande. Get him over there as well. Get in the Discord. Good night, everybody. Good luck with your lineups. We'll catch you all tomorrow.